On this episode of the Post House Podcast, we talk with the elder of the Post House tribe, a well-traveled, smooth talker and storyteller, the Sultan of Sales, our VP of Business Development, Rick Green.
Welcome to another episode of the Post House Podcast. Today we're with Rick Green, our Vice President of Business Development and also a very creative guy.
Thank you.
Welcome to the podcast, man. How are you?
Thank you. Very exciting. It's been happening next door to my office for weeks, and it's fun to be in the room.
All right.
It's fun.
Cool. So on the show, on this show, we talk about personal, creative, and professional fulfillment. But let's start out by let's talk a little about you. So I've known you for a long time. We've worked together now for a long time. But you have been in the business for over 20 years.
A long time.
So
Yes.
let's talk about that. So you started out what I believe was in the news station, but not in the news department.
Correct. I started out in broadcast TV. I've worked at 3 NBC affiliates in my career, in my broadcast career. 2 of them in production, 1 of them in creative services. So always around the news product, but never in it.
Gotcha. So within the news organization, obviously you're doing promos and commercial pieces and on the creative service side. You were down in Cincinnati, right? So you got to work on the early days of a very famous talk show. Want to tell me a little bit about those days real quick?
I did. I was at the television station where Jerry Springer was our main male anchor. Started the talk show. They were grooming him to become the Phil Donahue. The same company owned our station that owned the Phil Donahue and Sally Jesse Raphael show. We started the Jerry Springer show in our building, and quite frankly, it was a very serious. He's a smart dude. It was a very serious, real talk show for a little while.
Before it became a ringmaster,
and then it went nuts, and then it moved to Chicago, and I decided to stay in Cincinnati instead of going with the strip off in Chicago, which was probably a good move.
Right. So you also you have one of the things that I think brought us together was your entrepreneurial spirit. So you also have done a lot of small to medium sized business randos or been partners in those over the years. Yep. I believe it was Greenhouse Media was your first one.
That was the first one, yeah.
And you got to work on some cool stuff. We're doing Monday Night Football.
Yep.
Promos.
They were one of our big clients. I used to travel with them, actually. I would go and sit in the truck, and I would produce and edit the pregame. Here's a look back at last week. Here's a look forward to next week. Any player features. I edited all the starting lineups. I'm Tim Flaherty from the Ohio State University, all that stuff.
Nice. Yes. Never played professional sports.
Me neither. But yeah, it was fun. What was fun about it is I worked the 3 days leading up to the game. And then when the game started, I was done. Everything that I made aired pregame or in the game. And so I was done. So I would go stand on the sidelines and watch the game.
That's awesome.
Which was fun. Yeah.
So so being around sports marketing has been there for a long time.
Yeah, absolutely.
So that kind of leads us into a lot of our current clients and stuff. But also you had some partnerships in the past where you were with the power plant, correct?
Yep. Another multimedia studio, similar but different to Post House. Really great creative team, had a great facility, a lot of great clients. It's probably where I got my MBA in business and and my degree in psychology and working
on mine now. So.
Yeah, exactly. Running a small business is an education in itself for sure.
It is. It's education in people. It's education in finance and business and how the world works.
Yeah.
Dealing with whether they are legal partners or just partnerships that you deal with all the time and the stress that comes with that. I mean, it can be a heavy weight, right?
For sure. It's one of the things that I like about where I'm at right now, and is to go back to your being fulfilling. One of the things that I'm really fulfilled by right now is I think we have a really good group of complementary strengths. Everybody's got strengths and weaknesses. Very few people start a small business because they love to, forecast taxes for the next 3 quarters. They get into small business because they love whatever the business is. In your case, you love directing, producing, shooting. You love making stuff, visual. You're a visual artist. I felt the same way. I loved storytelling. I loved bringing people, all the right people and parts into the same room, and helping and create an environment where great things came out of it. I did not get into business so that, in the middle of a giant meeting, someone comes around the corner and says, the toilet's overflowing into the hallway. What do we do? You're like, well,
Call a plumber?
maybe we can finish this meeting first, and then yeah.
Right.
So the taxes and all the stuff and so I think at least at the moment at Post House Creative, we have a really good mix of people's strengths and weaknesses, and I think that's what it takes, honestly, for
It's a good balance.
Yeah, for a small business to make it.
Okay, so continuing on your journey here, a very interesting turn, I feel like. You were involved very early on in Digital Juice. So while you're at the power plant, you kind of took a little sort of a sabbatical, but like you moved to Florida, you were into Digital Juice stuff, and if anyone will find a clip, we'll show everybody. I know it's around here somewhere.
I hate you.
Yeah, I know. But you were the tutorial guy. You were before there was online tutorials, there were VHS tutorials, and then there were DVD tutorials, and you were the host of those.
I was the first face of Digital Juice, if you can imagine, and they're still in business still, in spite of that. Quick, semi-interesting story, and I know one of the fools that edits this thing will find something on the internet to embarrass me with, but I was working at Channel 4 here in Columbus. I was a creative director. I had started Greenhouse Media, my broadcast TV career coming to an end because I just didn't love it anymore. Really liked the like you said, the entrepreneurial spirit and running a small agency. And honestly, I bought some of Digital Juice's stuff online. I used it, and I sent them a letter, email or something, and said, hey, I don't know anything about your company, but I just used some of your texture stuff in a piece for Monday Night Football, and like 80 million people saw it yesterday. So that's kind of cool. They got back to me and said, hey, can you come tell that story at NAB? Can you come show people what you did? Ended up doing some live demos for them at NAB. Short version is they asked me to record that, which I did. I had an edit suite in my basement. I recorded a demo in my basement edit suite, sent it to them thinking they're going to put it on their website, or they're going to, use it to whatever. I don't know, maybe a month later, I started getting emails and letters and notes, calls from people like all over the country. Like, what are you doing? I'm like, what are you talking about? And then I got a cease and desist letter from Monday Night Football because there was
and there's the business part.
Yeah, there's the business part. Because there was like a 7-second clip in the deep in the background of this thing I showed them that I made.
NFL Films did not like that.
They did not, and they sent me a gigantic invoice and a cease and desist, or I had a choice.
You always stop
after. Yes,
don't pay that
but what I didn't know is, unbeknownst to me, Digital Juice had sent out 250,000 of those demos that we recorded in my basement. And that's where Monday Night Football, NFL Films got one of them landed in their offices. And they're like, hey, you can't do that. They were very cool, in case they're listening. I don't live there anymore. They were very cool and helped me negotiate it down to something way less reasonable and with a couple less zeros than the original invoice from them had. But we got it all cleared up and it was all good. And that was the first ever mass distribution of a Digital Juice demo. And we did hundreds and hundreds and hundreds more of them over the next several years. I moved to Florida. I did that after I moved back to Ohio. I'd go down there every 6 weeks and shoot a bunch of demo videos and over a couple of days. And so, yeah, we did them for a long time.
So that's so that kind of brings it to where we kind of cross paths. So I remember being at an Emmy award
Hmm.
ceremony, and you had just kind of finished up down in Florida. You kind of moved on from the one business. You were with another company.
Right.
You're doing a presentation, and then that's where it was for me the always up against Rick Green. So it was always up against Rick Green. If we would go do a proposal, and we were sitting in the lobby or something, then they'd walk out.
Yeah.
So it was always like, gosh, dang, like because you have such
I
great
take that.
you have such great relationships, and that's kind of that's the important thing here is that uh when I was starting, I didn't have these relationships yet, and you had these 10-15 year long relationships. And so tell me the little importance about like the long-term relationships and how, and I've been thinking about this. We People fancy you as a sales guy, but what I think you more are is a creative problem solver that just happens to know how much things cost.
That's a great. I love that. I'm putting
So
that
feel
on a
free to
business.
so feel free
I'm
to
putting
use
that on a
that.
business card for sure.
So relationships. Tell me a little about these long-term relationships.
First of all, I take that as a huge compliment. So thank you. Everything you said there, as far as us running into each other in the business um, and the relationship part and the salesperson part, I buy it all. I think you're absolutely right. I think more so than we sell anything, we go talk to people about what we do, and if we're a good fit, if it's the right time or place or environment to start a relationship, we do. And most of the relationships we start continue, and I think that has a lot to do with the type of people that we have on our team, and not only their expertise and creativity, but they care about doing good work. And that's an easy story to tell, honestly. There's more than one person in this building that would accuse me of telling long boring stories over and over again. But the one I don't get tired of telling is we really really like what we do. We really really love having relationships, because quite frankly we get it's better for both of us. It's a very win-win situation when we can get to know the client. We can help them figure out what they need, what their challenges are, help them figure out potential solutions, and then it just so happens that we know a bunch of great people who execute. And that's a pretty great spot to be in. And so it is an easy story to tell. I never feel like when Lindsay came on a year and a half ago or now, whatever it's been, and she was going to a bunch of business development meetings with me. That's when I started realizing we don't really sell. We just go kind of tell stories and talk to people about what they're doing and listen and ask questions and figure out, is there a relationship here to be had? And quite frankly, a lot of times we start the relationship way before we do any work, or way before any business comes into play, just because it feels right, whether it's the two companies or the people or whatever it is. If it feels right, it's like, yeah, let's keep in touch, and let's grab lunch every once in a while or whatever, and then 2 years later we do that first project together.
Right.
Awesome.
It's a long process, and I think a lot of people don't understand that. I feel like we're pretty flexible in that space, that we know that like we're having conversations, but not necessarily like the transactional thing is like way down the list, because if we
Right.
can help solve a problem, then
Right.
I think eventually they'll come back and they'll maybe like pay us for services.
Sure.
We're not the type of group that like says, oh, we'll come talk to you for a fee. Sometimes people ask us to do that, and
For
that's
sure.
great. But really, I mean, I really do feel like that we are creative problem solvers. We just kind of know how much things cost, right?
It's absolutely right. And it's what's interesting about being in a visual business is, and I get it, it makes sense. People think of us as the people who make videos, and we do that. We absolutely make content, but
He said doo doo.
I did say doo-doo, by the way. John's not going to be able to handle that. That is something that we do. But there's so many things that happen around that, prior to actually creating a video, that is, figuring out what the challenges are, figuring out what the goals are, having those conversations, making that, putting together that plan, talking through and sometimes walking through multiple potential executions, potential solutions before you actually make anything. And then after the fact, we don't, pretty much anybody can make stuff that looks cool. We don't want to just make stuff that looks good. we want it to do something. We want it to educate or sell or market or brand or whatever the goal is. And so we spend a lot of time after the fact too, trying to help our clients figure that part out too. Because it's not rocket science. If it's successful,
they come back.
Right.
Usually.
Right. Especially if we remember how much things cost. And we tell them. So yeah, it's again, to us, it seems very natural, and that's just the way you do it. Having done this for 25 years in a few different places in a few different ways, I can tell you it's not that common. It's not that natural for a group, especially, to be just like, yeah, of course we're going to over deliver to every client. Of course we're going to check in with them. Of course we're going to maintain this relationship, whether they're an active paying client or not. It's just what you do.
Right. And that's, I mean, I feel like that has been like a lot of our success but it really comes back to, and it took a while to figure it out, but it comes down to these like little pillars of fulfillment, right?
Sure.
And, we can be creatively fulfilled, where we get paid. So that's some professional fulfillment, but it's not the paycheck. Maybe it's just the, having, a little bit different of a status amongst your peers.
Sure.
That can be professionally fulfilling, but talk to me a little bit about like the personal side of things. What do you find most personally fulfilling about what you get to do now?
Super easy to define. It is professionally and personally fulfilling for me to go into an existing client or a potential new client, and talk about what we do and how we do it, because I'm proud of it. And I believe in it. And I think that comes through. I think people believe us.
Well, they should. It's true.
Yeah, exactly. And I still, back when I was more involved in hands-on making stuff, in my view, we talked about, the producer role of bringing all the elements together to make something happen. Now I get a lot of fulfillment out of bringing like interesting clients and our creative team and any other, sometimes there's a third party vendor or people or something. I love bringing those elements together because I know our creative team's going to kill it. I know if we find the right partners, they're going to be, they're going to get, it'll be a win-win in that relationship. And I really am professionally and personally fulfilled in that space. As far as outside of business, I am no more fulfilled than when I am in particular with my family, traveling or doing something outside. I'm a bit of a hiker and a biker and a semi-retired runner, and doing those things with my family there's no greater fulfillment.
Well, that's great. And, we really try to work on that work-life balance here. I especially like try to be, and that was, I think, was one of the draws that led you to want to work here, was because, I think you were on a cusp of going to a state that like you could be perpetually outside.
Right.
And, it was one of those things like, I don't care where you do the work because you're going to get the work done. So I don't care where you do it from. And we still, I mean, obviously we have to have face-to-face.
Sure.
We have to have meetings. There's a lot that you can get done in an hour-long session if we're not talking too much and BSing. Right. But when we have to get the things done, like we set that time aside and we do it. But for the most part of it, like I don't want people sitting around the office if their job is to go talk and cultivate relationships and do things. Or, if they can find a way to do work and pleasure at the same time, that's a great recipe. And that's a lot of what everyone has talked about, is this blend, right?
Sure.
It works best when everything kind of blends. On the creative side, like we got together and we did a really awesome creative project that was super fulfilling, cost $0. Like there's no invoice changed hands, but it made a lasting impact. That was like the Sweet Princess project.
Right.
And I think that's when we solidified like, yeah, we want to work together.
Sure.
But like, what do you find? What fulfillment do you get out of the creative process now? I know like Lindsay like gets enjoyment out of making the decks and
Right.
sifting through all of our imagery. Tell me a little about the creative side.
Before I start that, I do want to acknowledge, and not just because we're in your office at your place, but I do want to acknowledge that when we did meet and start that relationship, I was absolutely incredibly impressed with your ability to recognize that, your ability to recognize that that people don't have to be sitting in a seat a certain number of hours a day or certain days of a week, or that there can be a trust factor, and there can be a, hey, as long as everybody knows what everybody's doing and everybody's doing their job, that's okay. Because there is a significant, and we've discussed this many times. I think I came to you and told you, my time is way more valuable to me than just about anything. So if we can figure out a way that I can have some flexibility there, I'll be flexible with you as well. And we've had this handshake agreement of, let's just be cool, right? I'll do these things. You'll expect these things of me. And so far, it worked pretty well. It works pretty well, I think. So I want to acknowledge that. It was significantly impressive to me that you recognize that and were open and willing to do that, because I made no bones about it 6 years or so ago when we had this conversation. Seven, yeah. I wasn't looking for a job. I love Columbus dearly, and I've been here 25-ish years. But I was born and raised in Colorado, and that I love it there. And I told you I'm going to be there a lot. Whether I work with you, we work together, however, I'm going to be there a lot. And you were open to that, and gave me the ability and the leash basically to go develop some business there. And now we have a pretty good pocket of business there and continuing to grow it, hopefully. So to be able to go to work in Denver a few times a quarter is pretty great, yeah. Or sometimes a few times a month is pretty great. And I'm super appreciative of it. And that is an incredibly fulfilling part of being here at PHC. So now to answer your question directly about the creative process, it has changed for me a lot. I used to need to be involved in every part of it. Like I wanted to think of it. I wanted to bring all the pieces together. I wanted to make it. I wanted to do every part of it.
And I remember the struggle that you had of letting some of that go too.
It's not easy. It's really difficult.
And the growing pains of that. Well, yeah. I mean, I remember it's hard to not see something all the way through, or start it and then go, it's not exactly how I thought it was going to go.
Absolutely.
But I felt like over the time, that we've gotten through that. And,
absolutely.
And like I said, now you're like, I'll go ski this weekend.
So. I might be going there soon, tomorrow. Yes, the fulfillment factor has shifted from needing to be involved in every part of the creative to, I do really enjoy getting together with our creative team and everybody throwing out ideas, and then I kind of go on and move to the next conversation business development wise, and knowing that this team will kill it. And you guys are kind enough to let me jump in here and there on things I am interested in. Like, obviously I've got a long-term relationship with our hockey team, and I love hockey. We all do. A lot of us do. And so I get to jump in creative here and there, a little more involvement with creative here and there. But the fulfilling part now is sort of, going out and evangelizing a bit our story, who we are, what we do, how we can help, finding the right types of partners to that fit with us, right, and that we fit with. That's super, super fulfilling. So
we're going to do a couple little rapid fire things here.
All right.
So like I'm making this up as we go, because that's kind of like, I was told that that is the fun part of listening to like me trying to think of things. But,
okay.
I did do a little thought. So Cincinnati or Denver?
Oh, Denver.
Okay. Now here we are at Denver.
Yep.
Is it the Broncos or the Avs?
Oh, it's got to be the Avs.
Okay.
I mean, I grew up a Broncos fan, but hockey's hockey, man. Hockey's the best sport. It's just the best.
Okay, now we're talking Colorado in general.
Yeah, here it
So
comes.
no,
Okay.
it's fine. No, I'm not. This is is it Vale or like Breckenridge?
I'm less of a Vale guy. I'm
Okay.
more of a Breck.
Okay.
Copper Mountain's one of my favorites. Crested Butte's the best mountain town on the planet. Telluride is the most beautiful place. You can stand in the middle of a
pretty awesome.
Yeah, it's incredible.
So that wasn't so bad.
No, not at all. I thought you were gonna make me choose between like friends or food or something.
No, we wouldn't do that. Not John or Andrew.
Yeah, right. Well,
No, really.
since Andrew's in the room, I'm saying Andrew.
All right.
And John will never have the patience to listen to all this, so he'll never get this.
He'll just say he's already heard all this.
That's right.
Okay, so another real big thing that we do around here, and one of the things we talk about is travel, and that was another thing that brought us together. Like we talked about, like I want to go do these travel things, and I said, okay, sounds great. And you're like, what do you mean? I'm like, well, go do it.
You did. You did.
We did it.
We did.
You know, and we have a really great, and that was a Denver connection.
Yeah.
So we get to do a lot of really cool things with Inspirato, but you know, you're always A-list. You're always, you know, you get companion. You travel quite a bit. You love aviation. There's a big part of that in your life. So tell me a little bit about, you know, shortly.
Yeah.
About your travel and like your travel bug and the wanderlust for not being in one spot.
Comes from two places. Grew up in Denver. My parents were from Cincinnati area. But when I was little kid, we moved to Denver and we went everywhere. My parents took us somewhere different every week. We went everywhere. And that's definitely where I got a hunger to see stuff, because I couldn't believe there was this much stuff all in one place. Because we were driving then. I mean, it was just driving somewhere else in the mountains. But we didn't really get on airplanes much and go other places. We went tons of places around Colorado. Fast forward, 25 years, and I meet my wife, Patty. Her family, all aviation nerds, pilots. Her dad's, lieutenant colonel, fighter pilot. They lived and traveled all over the world. And I was fascinated by their ability to just go. Like, I've been sitting at their kitchen table when Patty and I were dating. We were sitting at the kitchen table and be like, "You want to go to Chicago?" "Yeah, that'd be cool. When?" And they're like, "Right now." And we would get up and go to the airport with no luggage, no planning, no nothing, and go to Chicago.
That's amazing.
And then when we get there, it'd be like, "Oh, it's Taste of Chicago," and we wanted to do that. And and we did that over and over and over again. They all work for airlines, and it was easy to do financially also. But that is carried over. And I vowed before, when Patty and I got married, I'm like, our kids have to have this. They have to know that this is okay. They have to know that it's a great thing to go see stuff, to just go. And so since they were babies, we've absolutely done it. You just gotta go. And I'm gonna do it as long as I'm able.
So the other rapid fire question, the comparison was gonna say, is it Colorado or Italy?
Oh, geez. Man, Italy's delicious. It's so beautiful and delicious.
But you got to spend quite a bit of time last spring took a little bit of time off and ricking remotely is what people around here said. You got to do that, and you spent 6-8 weeks over in Europe,
almost
right?
9 weeks, actually.
I can't remember. I just remember it was like, what day are you coming back? Like, I think we can work this out.
No, it was awesome. And again, just to solidify the story and the way things work is, coming to you and saying, "Hey, I want to be gone for a couple of months," is not easy. But I also said, "I promise you we're going to be all right, sales wise." And I think I personally, and maybe we as a company, had a pretty maybe best year.
It was. I mean, it was. I don't know.
Maybe it was because I was gone for so long.
Wait a minute.
Yeah, dots connect dots. No.
So Rick, when are you going back to Europe?
Right. No, my daughter was studying abroad for a semester, and then when she got in Italy, and then when she got done, I went over and met her, and she and I ran around Europe for a month. And then when my wife and son got out of school, they came over and we ran around for another month. So she was over there almost 6 months, which was great. But yeah, it's so beautiful and it's so delicious and it's so easy. Uh, you know, I'm a little bit embarrassed that it took me till I was 45 years old to go to Europe. Um, and if you wanted us to move the company there tomorrow, I've got a great place in Trentino at the base of the Dolomiti and the Italian Alps. That's where we should go.
Oh, sounds like you got it all mapped out.
Well, you know, I mean, my daughter wants to go to. She's looking at some grad schools in that space too, so it's pretty beautiful.
All right, so I got two more things here I want to talk about.
Yep.
One thing is I get asked a lot, and we need some inside help on this. What is the deal with you and the hyphen? If you've ever received an email, a
very guilty look by Andrew.
If you've ever seen an email communication from me, you replace commas, punctuation with a hyphen. So where's that come from, and why do we call you the hyphenator?
That's funny and a surprise. But I actually have an answer because I have thought about it.
It's mostly stream of consciousness writing. It's usually
very much so. It is. I think it is my old guy version of when everybody started texting and speaking in text. Like, forget the punctuation, because there was actual texting before smartphones. I don't know if anybody knows that. But when you had to, like, you know, text from your flip phone.
Oh yeah.
People started. Yeah. Tick tick tick. People lost all grammar and punctuation and everything just to get a message across, right? Without having to type 5,000 characters to say, I'm on my way. So I think then when the smartphones came out, it was super annoying when people were typing out whole sentences and full, you know, super annoying also. So I think it is my sort of old guy hybrid of, I don't want to say too much, but I've got a lot to say, so I'm just going to keep saying it.
Yeah.
So I'm just going to keep saying it, and the hyphen feels like a good, safe way to not, you know, nobody's going to say you used the wrong punctuation there. You
That's
used
a run-on sentence.
Yeah. Yes, every one of my sentences run on. They're all connected with dashes or hyphens. So, you know.
Also, you make it a dash, so you don't.
I don't know what it is. It's
Okay.
it's my crutch. It's my grammar crutch.
Well, like I say, if you ever get any sort of email or text communication, you will know what we are talking about.
Yes.
So to wrap things up, 2019, what are you looking forward to?
I am looking forward to starting some new relationships. Business-wise, I'm looking forward to starting some new relationships that are getting back to some of the spaces that we really love as a group. I'd love for us to, you know, we've had a really good 4 or 5 year run of travel related content. I'd love to do some more of that. I'd love to grow our sort of organic storytelling opportunities. I'd love to find some partners that would allow us to do some longer form organic brand storytelling. I think our team's really good at that, and I think there are brands that are looking for and need that. On the personal side, I want to ride my bike more because I have to run less because my hips are old. But I want to ride my bike more. I want to keep traveling. There's a few places and specifically that I want to go that I haven't been. I want to go spend some time in Yosemite.
Okay, yeah.
Part of it's because I've never been there, and part of it's because I have a bit of a boy crush on Alex Honnold after watching him free solo up the face of El Cap. I have zero interest in climbing rocks, but if you haven't seen free solo,
I have. It's Return of the Jedi.
Yeah, yes, I'm surrounded by Star Wars nerds, which is totally fine. But yeah, I want to go. There's a couple of places I want to go. Yosemite's one of them. Yeah, just keep living.
All right, man. Well, I appreciate you taking the time, and it's always fun to hear the same stories. I'm just kidding.
over and over and over.
No, I mean it's good. I mean,
Yeah.
I don't think I've ever really cornered you on the hyphen one, but
No, that
but,
was a surprise.
But yeah, so everybody learned a little bit today. So, all right, thanks, Rick. Appreciate it.
Appreciate you doing this.
Uh-huh.
Thanks.